So we'll reconvene this meeting from executive order, and there will be a motion to follow later in the agenda. So at this time, I will do roll call. Director Drake.
Liz Drake, District Director 3.
Hiroshiato, Director, District 5.
Claire Wilson, Director, District 2.
Jeffrey McAnalloy, Director, District 1.
Carol Gregory, Director, District 4. Tammy Campbell, Superintendent.
If you all please rise for the presentation of the colors by Todd Beamer High School, JROTC.
Color guard. Roll. Order. Colors. Left. Face. Breathe in. Colors. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Right. Face. Court. Colors. Forward. March.
Please be seated. At this time, I entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the meeting agenda of December the 6th, 2016 as submitted.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I now entertain a motion for the approval of the required approvals agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the required approvals agenda of December 6, 2016 as submitted.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now it's time for what most of you are here for, is good news announcements.
Are we using that? Okay. Does this work? Oh, yes, it does. We're used to doing this in the other city hall, so this will be kind of interesting. So you may not be able to see me. I'm going to sit down, but you can certainly hear me. So, in support of Strategic Plan Goal 2, Hold Child Thriving, Confident, Responsible Individuals, Nautilus K-8 set out to increase attendance with the Beat the Bell competition. As part of the Beat the Bell competition, each classroom received a sign with 4 letters, B-E-L-L, to hang in the window. Each morning, any classroom with 100% attendance and no tardy students circle a letter. After a classroom spells bell, it receives a Beat the Bell sign and begins working toward 11 days of on-time perfect attendance. Once a classroom has achieved this goal, a new prize is awarded. Will the following staff and students who've already come forward let us recognize them? Maybe you could wave as I say your name. Principal Stacy Lucas.
Wave your hand.
Vice Principal Andre Cook. Tammy Burgett. Anne-Marie Tennyson. Joni Brewster. Kayla Sexto. Riley Underwood. Malik Mazman. Risa Miles.
Everybody look for it.
Hazel Underwood.
Big smile.
Kendall Sexto. Brady Tennyson. Hannah Mai. Maurice Miles. And Jaden Covert. This attendance effort, led by Nautilus, begun last year with a more focused effort this year with the new strategic plan. Compared to October 2015, Nautilus reduced from 250 tardy arrivals to 188 in October 2016, even with an increase enrollment of 50 students. Thank you to K-8, Nautilus K-8, for making the goal a priority towards making the mark to attend school every day. We're very proud of you. All right, everybody smile. All right, keep it up. That's right, attendance matters.
Every day at school, attendance matters big time. Great job.
Awesome,
Keep it up.
thank you. All right, here we go. We're moving from attendance to another area that's important, and that's math. The Math Fall Classic is designed to reward excellence in mathematics. The Classic was held on November 12, 2016, and Thomas Jefferson High School students placed very well in both individual and team contests. Approximately 100 middle school and high school students from around the state participated in this 20th annual State Mu Alpha Theta Math hosted at Thomas Jefferson High School. The following Thomas Jefferson students placed in the top 3 in the competition. And again, I'm going to have you just raise your hand when I say your name. Nicholas Kim, grade 10 division, individual multiple choice test, 2nd place. Angela Yu, Nick Kim, Austin Kim, and Zachary Botts, 9th and 10th grade division team test, 3rd place. Orjul Baidzatya, 12th grade, individual ciphering test, 3rd place, And Michelle Kim, Orjul Batsya, Sean Yee, and Brian Kim, 11th and 12th grade division team test, 2nd place. This effort is in direct support of the district's strategic plan goal 4, content area competence, mastery of all subjects. Congratulations, math scholars, on your achievements in the competition. We're very proud of you.
Job well done. Congratulations.
We're now moving on to recognize a senior from Decatur High School who started the Decatur Coding Club, Elizabeth Min. Please join us. Not only did Elizabeth start the Coding Club, but she is also leading the effort with fellow Decatur students to teach coding at Saholly Middle School. The Coding Club has sponsored many events at Saholly, and beyond mentoring younger scholars in coding, the club has worked on the Verizon App Challenge, making a video, and more. Elizabeth is applying to Stanford and hopes that her work with this club supports her volunteer and leadership ability. Elizabeth, we are very proud of your leadership in support of Goal 3. Active learners, engaged, empowered, critical thinkers. Way to go. And way to go, parents, too. Thank you.
G-Rose, girls can do it. Coding too. Way to go.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Now we're moving on to Director District 4. The Reflections Program is a national PTA and Washington State PTA cultural arts competition. The purpose of this program is to provide an opportunity for students to use their creative talents by expressing themselves through their original art. Tonight, we are excited to announce 3 Wildwood Elementary School scholars who won in their respective categories in the art competition and will be moving on to the Federal Way Regional PTA contest. Please come up as I read your names. Mary Springer, who won the kindergarten to 2nd grade visual arts.
Oh, yeah.
Eva Springer, who won the 3rd through 5th grade visual arts. Jack Kroll, who won the original song composition titled Song of Love. Each year, Reflections challenge students to create art that supports a specific theme. Themes are selected from thousands of ideas submitted by students to National PTA's Reflections Theme Search. This year's theme is, What is Your Story? Scholars, we are proud of your dedication to the arts as you continue to become active learners, engaged, empowered, critical thinkers. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
One more. Hold on. Here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Way to go. Way to go. Good job.
All right, next. Each day, our student scholars have the opportunity to be thriving, confident, and responsible individuals. Tonight, we are excited to share a group of Illahee Middle School web students who are making a difference. These scholars recently presented at an anti-bully assembly to their school on November the 3rd. During the assembly, students provided an overview with the basic facts about bullying to raise awareness and help the audience recognize that bullying has gone on too long and for too many who have suffered as a result. These students wanted everyone to know the time to take action is now and that everyone has a voice in raising awareness about bullying. These messages were shared through testimonials, poems, stories, song, and dance. I'd now like to recognize the scholars who were part of this effort and invite them to come forward.
Take 3 rows. Can we get
Albright.
3 rows?
Heavenly Tupatala,
3 rows.
Armani Tupatala, Joanne Mativa, Jada Elia, Daniel Chung, Jaden Cowder, Ryan Johnson, Abby Wolf, Tavia McKenzie, Jaylene Raw,
Everybody look right up here in the center.
Emma Erickson, Anika Dahl, Kimberly Lee, Isabel Wilson, Satara Marshall, Joseph Mizutani,
Right in the center.
Livia Thompson, Caitlin Francis, Luis Carrera Lara, Anastasia Kromal, Lauren Malady, Mohammed Basme, Giselle Alvarado, and Paige Sugg. Congratulations.
Keep it up.
Now, I'd like to provide one example of an Illahee Middle School leader, Abby Wolf, who shared the following in her speech, Bullying and What to Do About It. So I'm channeling Abby Wolf here, and I'm going to read her statement. Today, I'm honored to talk to you about a problem at our school that I hope everyone is aware of, bullying. I'm going to give you the scenario. One day, a girl gets caught up in some drama, and her friends, who aren't really her friends if they treat her like this, start pushing her around. What would you do? What I would do is stand up for her, without a question in my mind. But I might be a little intimidated, so instead of just giving up and saying, well, I guess she's on her own, no. Guys, right there is the problem, because that's what most people do. They're so intimidated that they give up and forget about it. So what I would do, like I said, is go and get some more people to stand up to this bully with me. Then the bully would maybe be intimidated. As my dad told me once, a friend in need is a friend indeed. He means if people are actually trying to befriend you, befriend them. You don't know their backstory. Be nice to them because they might not have nice people at home. You really don't know their backstory. Your closest friend might be hiding something from you or might start acting sour because something at home happened. Their parents, they could have gotten a divorce, a relative might have died, they are treated wrongly. You'll never know why someone is the way they are if you've never had a conversation with them. Assuming something everybody does, assuming is something everybody does. So thank you, Abby, and our Illahee Web student scholars for leading by example to help make our schools positive and welcoming places for all students to grow and learn. Congratulations.
Great job. Keep it up.
Never be silent. It's the silent ones that allow it to happen, and the fact that you're here tonight, you're providing the perfect role model for what we want our scholars in Federal Way, what the schools to be doing. I couldn't be prouder of you. Way to go. Awesome.
All right, so usually at this time, most of you leave, so I'll give a couple minutes to let those that need to exit can exit at this point.
We give you permission, excused absence.
Right.
That's great.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks. What about Grandma and Grandpa? That's great.
So those of you that are left might want to feel welcome to come forward so we don't all have to scream at you, right? One way to clear it out, right? Our next item on the agenda is the legislative liaison update. Director Drake.
It's always sad when everyone leaves, but, you know, I understand. Last night, Dr. Tammy Campbell and our president, Jeffrey McAnally, and myself, we attended the Puget Sound Educational Service District, PSESD, for an evening of discussion about McCleary, and it was so beneficial. We had Jessica Vavras from WASDA and Dan Steele from WASA. Lots of was were there. Just sharing some of the basic information and updates that will help us really as we move forward in the 2017 legislative year that is going to be so critical in so many ways to every one of our scholars. We were given some of the most amazing documents that really were simple, and after a year of studying it, I could actually really find myself understanding it. We were then given an opportunity in tables to talk with other people from across our local district areas and start coming up with things that we felt we needed to focus on. And then we were asked to share out. In our group, we had two of the board directors from PSESD and the three of us, and we talked about the fact that there are so many documents from all the W's, the WASA, the WASDA. They're similar.
WASBO, WEA.
WASBO, yeah, all of them. They're similar, but they're different, and they're sufficiently different to start making it that much more difficult to actually express the clear, simple message that we need to focus on funding education, funding basic education. And we then listened to each group sharing, and every single group pretty much had the same message: merge into a simple message so that when we're speaking to our community, when we're speaking to our legislators, they're not hearing mixed messages. They're not getting confused, because this is not an easy situation. It requires a lot of thought, and if we are clear and succinct with one message we are going to that much more powerfully convince, hopefully, our legislators that this is the direction, passing the Clery is the way we need to be going. We're working, the board and the district, on a message to our community, and something that I would like for us to be focusing on is who are the legislators that do make a difference in the decision making for Federal Way. So I put a little list together with names, the party they represent, the room they're in, if you should happen to be in the area, their phone number and their email. And we're going to do our best to get this out to our community, our school board members, so that the message that we are sharing is a powerful one. We need our scholars to be the priority. We need their paramount duty to fully fund basic education to happen next year. So it was one of the best meetings I've ever attended. Clear, concise, very energetic. So that's my report.
Great, thank you. All right, next we'll do quarterly reports on our 3 committees. So the first one is the Facilities Planning Committee. So those representatives from the board are Director Drake and myself. So Director Drake, if you want to start to share part of what you've, and then I'll fill in.
I think I did say something about the Facilities Committee in my board report a few board reports ago. And basically I'm impressed with the voice that is coming through from our broad community. I'm really pleased with the level of structure, organization, vision, and the fact that we're really engaging our total population, parents, as well as general community members, our students, our faculty, our administration, in the vision as we move forward of what education is in the future, rather than looking at the buildings that we have presently and thinking that that is meeting the needs of our students who will be going into a very different world from the one that we're even experiencing now. So I really feel there is a very strong plan in place. And when I actually had the opportunity to visit Thomas Jefferson and Decatur, and just the thought that went into providing those that went on these visits, and other people went to middle schools and elementary schools, is really grounding us in the work that really needs to be done as we move forward with planning our growth.
So we've had 3 meetings so far, actually 4. I missed one of them because we were in annual conference. But first meeting there is a,
3.
has it been 3? Okay, all right. I thought, and then maybe so I've only attended 2. It's like, well, with the visits, we do the visits too, right? So
It's been 3 with that.
okay.
I know, it feels like.
Lots of meetings, so I sometimes get them confused. But you know, there's actually an architect consultant that's working with all of us. There's been over 120 from the community, all segments invited. We had over 80 at the last meeting, right? So there's some ebb and flow that's happening, but it really is about beginning to entrench within our community the importance of us going out for bonds for our buildings. And when we start to think of it from an equity perspective, when we looked at, so I went to 2 middle schools, when I compared Totem to Lakota, and we think about what population there is in those buildings and the difference that we have between those 2 buildings. And from an equity perspective, it's a travesty. And something has to be done. It's an imminent situation that has to be taken care of sooner than later to make sure that all scholars are given the same opportunity in all perspectives of what happens in their daily lives in the school district. And so it's kind of interesting as you begin to talk about it and understanding where community is in their own thoughts. As a video was shared at the last meeting about a school in Canada, and it was a very open-based kind of layout and design. There were a lot of people that have real specific decisions about how it should be. It's too unstructured. We're not controlling the scholars enough. It's just, it's interesting to think about it. But then when you also take it and think about, we have to decide what's going to happen for the next 70 years. When we look at a building, it's 50 to 70 years. We don't even know what it's going to be in 10 years from now, let alone 70, right? So how do we know how buildings should be? And we really have to begin to shift that whole thought process of what it looks like today and how we have to be. And it really became this back and forth of, I mean, as an individual that has telecommuted for 10 years, I have an office in Seattle that I haven't seen in 2 years. I don't need to. I support something in California. But that's just because I've been in that environment, it's different. Most people think it has to be 4 walls and it's structured and it's seats that are all lined up. That may not be the best learning environment for our scholars. So we're helping and taking that diverse, rich committee and helping them to begin to understand that what school looks like today in 10 years, from 20 to 50 years from now, could be much different than what we did as students back in whatever day that was. And some of us, it was a long time ago. So it's really exciting, the work that's being done and how we're moving forward to get prepared for 2018. All right, our next committee report is out of student representatives. Director Wilson?
So we don't have really anything other than just a little frame and then an update on where things are at. But as a board, we took an action in 2015-16 to explore the possibility of student representation on our school board. And Director Eto and I had at the time volunteered to be 2 of the directors that kind of worked with the superintendent to explore that. And Dr. Campbell came on board, and we took a pause while she did things, like her 100-day entry plan and her strategic plan. And while those were being developed and rolled out, also what came about is the development of her student advisory committee. And so the student advisory committee, as a matter of fact, will be and has begun to have some conversation about what student representation on the Federal Way School Board might look like. We are one of, there are many in our state where we have representation. We are some of few who don't. And student voice is very important to us. And how do we do that in an authentic way? So the students will be providing, I believe both Director Eto and myself, with at least some information, and then we'll come to the full board with recommendations around what their thinking is around what that representation could look like as we move ahead. And I know we're interested in having that move ahead sooner rather than later, and how do we have representation but also sustain that so that we've got some ongoing learning going for our scholars in a very different kind of a way. So how did I do?
I think that's right.
Okay.
We've basically delegated to the smart folks, and that's the students.
And that's the students, and so that's the next step, is we'll be hearing from them what their recommendations are.
And
So.
I'm actually seeing that they would meet with you and Director Eto, and then they'd come to a board meeting
Correct.
and actually do a presentation
Yeah.
to the full board.
Yeah, and I know they're excited about
Yep,
that, so,
they are.
thanks.
So probably next 60 to 90 days, right?
I would see them coming, presenting to Director Eto and Director Wilson in January and coming to the full board in February.
Nice.
So you
Great.
can actually see the proposal.
Thanks for
They're
the update.
excited about it.
Yeah, me too. All right, and our third committee is the City Council and School Board Partnership. So Director Drake?
So, we met in August with 3 city councillors, Jean Burbidge, Lydia Asefa Dawson, and Mark Kopang. And at that time, Jeffrey and myself were the school board directors. We had very positive conversation that focused on Goal 2 of our Federal Way School District Strategic Plan. A conversation about city/district scholar summer program. Facilities, talking about the needs that we see developing within our school district. Talked about the affordable housing moratorium, exactly what that meant, and talking about best starts for kids. So they were the broad subject areas. We were supposed to meet on November 10th, but sadly there was a conflict. Some of the councillors had something else, so we couldn't meet. And it's been really hard with Thanksgiving and the holidays coming up to reschedule, but we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday, February the 9th. And our agenda for that meeting will be continuing our conversation about the Scholar Summer Program, strategic plan updates, talking about the developments that have taken place, general information sharing, just talking councillors, school board about the fact that we are so interconnected. Our scholars are such an important part of this city, and just how can we make that connection even more connected. Update on affordable housing, so the council are going to be giving us updates, and then updates on the facilities committee and where we're going with that. Ideas for the future that were thrown out by the city council was brown bag lunch events. They were talking about perhaps hosting at City Hall some brown bag lunch events to try and get their population, the people working within city council, to have a better understanding of what is going on with strategic plan, with briefings, bulleted updates for city council, because they really feel that they want to be more connected with the work that we're doing. So, February 9th, next meeting.
Great. And Carol Gregory is the other representative on that committee now, going forward. All right, next item is something we do once a year, and it is time to do that. It is the first meeting of December when we elect officers. So at this time, I will open the floor for any nominations for president.
Just a point of order. At the Washington State School Directors Association meeting, the elections have open nominations with no requirement to second. So why is it that we have a different process, if we could explain that?
It's just a
It's always been the process that's in place. So you can do things, so things are done out of the floor for what happens out of WASDA differently than what's established within a school district. So each school district establishes their norms, and it's called out actually within our GPs in the process that will happen, and that is done. So again, it's a board decision, but at this point we follow what the GP state, and the GP state that we have a motion and a second that happens for each nomination.
And I also think it's part of Robert's Rules of Order. It's part of the, we've done abbreviated Robert's Rules, but if you look at Robert's Rules on how meetings and how elections are done, it's not uncommon at all to have a second take place. Because without a second, the nomination doesn't move forward.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So again, I'll open the floor for any nominations for president.
Well, I would like to nominate, once again, as I did last year, Director Claire Wilson for the president. And my rationale is that
Okay, it's just
she-
a nomination. We don't go into
Well-
rationale.
Well,
It's
we
just
don't
nomination.
have an opportunity to talk to their,
Right, so let's
to
follow
their-
protocol, please, Director Eto. So it is that we open it up. At that time, that the candidate that has a motion and second, they can then share based on what they want to do for it. If they wanted to then give it to you to allow you to share additional, that information can be shared, but that's the process that we follow.
unfortunately, last year, the nomination was
Okay,
not seconded.
I've taken your nomination.
and
Do I
had to
hear a
make my
second
comments during the
for the
director's
nomination
comments.
of President Claire Wilson?
I'd like to second the nomination.
Because I have a motion and a second for Claire Wilson.
Thank you.
Are there any nominations for president?
I nominate Jeffrey McAnally.
I have a motion for Jeffrey McAnally. Do I hear a second?
I second.
I have a motion for Jeffrey McAnally. Are there any other nominations for president? It's the third time. We have 2 nominations. So this time I will call for a roll call vote.
How can we do
Oh,
a
okay,
vote
hold on,
without any
sorry,
discussion?
you're right.
We need to
Okay,
go.
just 1 second. Let's not make this more difficult than it needs to be, okay? So at this time, Claire Wilson, you have nominations, so I'd like to open the floor to you.
Director Eto, I want to thank you for your nomination for president of the Federal Way Public Schools Board of Education. While I appreciate the nomination, after reflection, I would like to respectfully decline. As board of directors and as a district, we have been on a journey that has included a stable board, a new superintendent, and a new strategic plan that has now taken us to a place where stability and sustainability are critical in order for our ends to be achieved. Because of that, I'd like to continue in the role of VP in partnership with Director McAnally for the coming year if you would consider nominating me.
Absolutely.
In total transparency to you and to my fellow board directors, I would love to be considered in future years' elections for the role of president. Thank you, Director Eto, for your nomination, but I respectfully decline.
Thank you.
And so we actually had a retreat 6 weeks ago, and as a board, we discussed at that time that keeping consistency and cohesiveness within the board based on what we are currently doing with the work of our superintendent, who has been in place for less than a year and a half, that it really came as kind of a culmination out of that the things that we can keep in place and keep static, as Director Wilson talked to it, was that's why I think a year ago I talked about not doing what had been done in the past. So this will be the 3rd year I will serve as president. But based on my first year being pretty tumultuous, this has been my year to really build and grow and to actually entrench within this community, within this district, and start to spread out and spread and have some roots that have been placed. And I'd like to take the work that's been in place for another year and move forward to continue that work based on the trends that we have currently and the partnerships that we have and the strategic plan that has just rolled out less than 5 months ago. So at this point, I'd be honored to serve again as the president of this school board. So at this time, I will call for a roll call vote. Director Drake. Your vote, please.
Vote for
Okay.
President McAnally.
Thank you. Director Eto.
I vote for President McAnally.
Director Wilson.
In support of Director McAnally.
Thank you. Director Gregory.
In support of Director McAnally.
Thank you. So it's a 5-0 vote. Thank you very much, and I'll be glad and honored to serve as your president for the next year again. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd open nominations for the floor for vice president.
I nominate Director Claire Wilson.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for the position of vice president? Are there any other nominations for the position of vice president? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. At this time, I would move to accept it by acclamation. Do I have a motion to do it as stated?
I so move.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Okay. So, congratulations, Director Wilson. You will serve as our vice president for the next year.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll open the floor for nominations for legislative rep. And I'd actually be honored at this point to nominate Director Drake. Do I have a second for the nomination?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for legislative rep? Are there any other nominations for legislative rep? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded. At this point, I would also call for another motion to accept it by acclamation.
I'd so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? I should have done that the last time, so I apologize. You need to take a step back. So let's finish this one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And I missed doing this with Vice President, so all in favor of Vice President Wilson, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous for all 3 positions. So at this time, I would ask for a motion of the reaffirmation of policies.
Move that all policies and adopted regulations are in full force and effect as they are now constituted, but are subject to individual review and revision as the need arises.
The motion, do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, at this time it's public comment, but as you can see, I don't think we have any public comment this evening, so we will move on from that to superintendent comments. Dr. Campbell?
I'd like to talk about a few items. The first is a student advisory to the superintendent. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I'll tell you, there are 30 scholars in that room, and they are just so clear about what it takes to make a difference in their lives. They spent quite a bit of time drafting up a framework for having student representation on the school board, and I am looking forward to sharing that information with Director Eto and Directors Wilson. In addition to that, though, when I asked them what they wanted to talk about, one of the things they said to me was that there were a couple scholars who were immigrants, and they were worried about what would happen in terms of being deported. And they said, several of them, that when the next time we get together, that they wanted to talk about how they can feel more welcome in their schools. And once that topic was open, to see so many scholars talk about, yeah, I'd like to talk about that, I'd like to talk about that. So So it's going to be a really powerful session. Their homework was to come prepared to talk about if only you knew what I experience and how I have to walk through the world. And so I would invite board members, if you're interested in being observers, I'd love for you to come and be observers on that day. So Carrie will make sure that we send an invite out so you can sort of listen and hear what they have to say. And we'll continue to use student voice, not as a token, but really to inform, to transform, and to inform the system about the work that's happening and let us know whether or not we're on the right track. We can't keep building and rebuilding systems without once consulting with the people it's intended to serve, our scholars. I also attended the McCleary meeting yesterday, and it was, again, these topics are so complex, it almost takes you 7, 8, 9, 10 different times to hear it before you can really feel like you have fluency on these topics. And so it takes time. And clearly the issues are around all the districts and the organizations coming up with a single-page document that says, here are the top 3 things we all want for our 1.1 million scholars. And that we've got to give up the wordsmithing and feeling like we have to have our own thing, because I think we have to do something extraordinary to get the attention of the legislature. And I think that's what we heard last night. And we know that compensation will be at the top of the list, along with some tax reform to really equalize how different districts collect revenue from their communities, so you don't have the haves and the have-nots. And then this notion around facilities and the supermajority for bonds, and really eliminating that so that it's much more easy for you to collect and get support for updating and modernizing your facilities. The SIP presentations. Well, you know, if I think about it, we had asked our schools, 39 of them, a year ago to present the goals that they were working on and the strategies. I think we would have gotten a whole lot more variation than we saw over these the past week. What I also will tell you is that I'm sure the board now has a better sense of words like ERLA, SLC, Four-Lens Protocol, restorative justice. Does that all sound familiar to you? Do you kind of know what those terms mean? And we heard our school's PBIS talking about all of these things, and you can start to see the growth. And so we're gradually nudging, tilting the organization towards an alignment, common goals, and I believe just paying attention to things causes accountability and causes folks to really want to do better. Because what I do know is we've got some really incredible principals in this district. All they want is support and direction. And usually that in and of itself creates a tremendous wave for continuous improvement to happen. On January 4th, I will be sharing the state of the district to the chamber. And at that time, I'll be sharing some of the good news, like our significant increase in our SLC data, our student-led conferences. We have seen that completely turn around because I was really concerned about the percentages that we're seeing. I'll be talking a little bit about our vision for education in this city, really talking about and reminding folks that we're not building the system that they had. We're building a system for scholars that we don't even know what they're going to do in their work lives. And so I'll be making the case for that. I'll be sharing our strengths and our areas of growth along with our plan, and then a plea to the community to believe in our scholars. That's really the big 4 components that we're going to be outlining. The facilities committee, that was a really good session. And you know what I'll tell you, if you were in this room and it was in this room, it's one of the few times I've been at a committee meeting where the room looked like the city. It was diverse, it was rich, the conversation was powerful. The only thing that we learned is that if you show a video, 1, people apparently think that that's the school you're trying to build. And we really needed to remind folks that and I've talked to Sally, that I think we should show a couple videos so people kind of loosen up a little bit. But also, we're not trying to replicate the school you went to. And I think we just have to keep reminding our committee about that, about the future that we're preparing our scholars for. And if they were to simply go one district over, they'd probably see these very same schools. And truly the little 5-year-olds aren't running rampant through the city screaming and tearing down houses because they've got schools that are overwhelmed. The other thing that I will share is that on the 14th next week, our leadership team will be continuing our work around courageous conversations, and I would invite the board to join us if you're available. And Lastly, I provided the mayor with the district priorities, specifically the pieces around compensation, the facilities pieces, so that they can integrate that into the city's priorities. So let's see how it goes if we get those things integrated, but I shared those just last week. Those are just a few little things that are going on in the district.
A couple.
That's right.
All right, now we'll move to school board comments. Dr. Gregory, would you like to start us this evening?
Mine are very personal. I now have 2 fake knees. So I haven't gone anyplace the last 2 weeks.
We're glad you're healed,
Yeah.
or healing in your way, walking much better. Director Wilson?
I'm just really pleased to hear about the scholar interest and the scholar voice, especially around those difficult conversations. And I wonder to myself if students are comfortable talking about issues related to documentation, whether we may see our students completing WAFSA scores increase. Because where they feel safe and comfortable, they'll come, and they'll also perhaps take advantage of some resources they've been afraid of taking advantage of before. I just want to thank you again, Dr. Campbell, for the opportunity to observe the 5 days of the school improvement presentations. And it was a great picture of the means to the ends that we've set as a board. And for so long, you know, you see the ends and you hear a little bit about the means, but really to get a systems-wide approach was wonderful. And I noticed that the delivery of the information was also systems approach, which made it really powerful, especially when you used the four lens protocol. When you looked at all things through those 4 lenses, it certainly provided you with an opportunity to not look. And where it was not fully, I think, looked at, it was pretty evident that there were some holes. And there's also celebrations and work that I think that we all know that we need to do. And I also noticed the close to most schools, 96 to 99% attendance rate at their SLCs, and for the most part, with our push at 100%, really just a lot of pride in the increase of those numbers. And I wonder how schools and how we as a district are going to sustain that attendance and those gains, and I wonder what is going to keep families coming back, and how do we continue to think about it as a tool for engaging families in scholars' work and not become a task of checking things off. So I really had it was a wonderful time, and I know it was stressful for those presenting with the clock going, but they all did a really nice job. So thanks for that opportunity.
Director Eto?
Before I get to the school improvement plans, the legislative update kind of reminded me of something that I noticed when I was over at that WASDA conference in Spokane. I remember they kept pitching the idea that we're the largest group of elected officials, but they are really so misaligned that they're really ineffective in my view. You know, almost like Brexit. I almost thought that we should do a Wexit because I think our ability to influence the legislature is much stronger through the Washington educators and the Federal Way Education Association than it is through WASDA, which is kind of red county, blue county, between with the dividing line being the Cascades. It was really kind of disappointing how unconnected we really are as school board directors. Anyway, last week I did attend those school improvement plans, all the morning sessions, and I was really impressed with the amount of critical thinking that was going on and all the collective insights that the other principals were able to bring. I think they enjoyed hearing the critical thinking of others and being able to collaborate, and I think some of the folks also indicated that the teachers are really enjoying the fact that they're being heard and they're in a collaborative process to fix things. They're not afraid of the facts. And it's not just putting pen to paper and putting it on the shelf. It was not magical thinking. Everything was really results based. based, and it wasn't about doing checklists of activities. So I really liked that. And I also like the fact that it wasn't all putting everything on the teachers. I mean, the teachers are doing 100%. So there was a lot of strategies involving the increased leveraging of families, the community, and also a focus on attendance, because the teachers are there teaching, but if the child is not there, they're not learning. And so by having that child come back into the classroom, that's going to help achievement. So I thought it was very well thought out. And I got a stronger sense for the change that's going on in our district with the people that talked about the cultural barriers that are faced in a lot of the classrooms. Some cultures, they almost want gender segregation. There's some cultures that almost expect only the boys to learn. So there's a lot of things that are brought in, not just the historic biases of our country, but biases coming in from other nations. So it's really a tough job, and so I was really happy to see that it's not a simple solution of, well, we're just going to have the teachers do 150%, because nobody can do that. And I also liked the fact that everyone seemed to be pushing the restorative practices, the idea that we're going to counsel and teach, not punish, that it's more relational and it's not about being intolerant. So I like that, and I liked also the fact that there was a lot of emphasis on having consistency in the rules and consistency in understanding the rules and enforcing the rules. Because unless you have good referees practicing at the same time, you really can't have a game, and you really can't coach your folks up to play the game and succeed. So I really thought that what I heard during those sessions was really well thought out, and I enjoyed each one. Thanks.
Director Drake?
I'm briefly going to touch on the same subject. I only managed to see one day, 3 schools, but it was so powerful seeing how committed, concerned, connected each of the presentations that I saw was. There was anxiety, but there was pride. Pride in what the schools had really dug deep into discovering what was going on and what was the reasons behind some of the problems that they could see some of their scholars were experiencing. There was dig deep in a way that I've never experienced before. And when you look at the strategic plan, it's so easy for a strategic plan to be a document that doesn't touch every single school, every single teacher. We now have a strategic plan that is definitely impacting every single person in our district. They're living it. And there was anxiety and there was emotion. You know, when one person was sharing an experience of a student's experience, tears, there's real investment on the part of each of our schools, each of our principals, the teams that came together. They're really engaged in a battle, and it's a battle to make every one of our scholars successful. So yes, very powerful, and the difference, you know, having experienced school improvement plans and seeing it now, it's night and day. It's amazing. And just one aside, whoever came up with the idea for the graduation attendance, the signs, I know that Director Wilson's put one up, and where we live, we're at the end of the cul-de-sac. No one would see it if I put it up. So we put it up on Dash Point Road. It's been up 3 days now, and every time I see it, it makes me smile. And they're the small things that will make our hopes and our dreams for all our scholars happen. The school improvement plans were amazing. So well done, Dr. Campbell.
This is that team.
Well done, the whole team.
You know,
It
Cassie,
was-
Mel working on that. Cassie is always harvesting
Yeah.
ideas from Puget Sound ESD. She's tireless.
Yeah, it
Warrior
was
over there.
truly amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. So first, Board, I want to thank you, and I'm humbled to be able to serve as your president for another year. I will be working with Cassie to send out a questionnaire, a survey to all of you to help talk about what our strengths are as a leadership team, president and vice president, what our weaknesses are, our areas of growth, and for us to make sure that we continually grow, because we too have to be looked at, and we need to be able to take the microscope and look at ourselves to make sure we're doing everything we can for our scholars to move forward. So that will be one action, so please watch for that survey and please participate. I'm honored to also announce that the Ledge Committee meetings will now move to Federal Way other than the Day on the Hill, and they will be done out of this building for the 2017 year. I've got some levity to be able to do it. I'm now the chair of that committee. Jessica Vavris is actually doing a pilot over in Eastern Washington with 3 legislative districts and those school districts impacted by that to have bi-weekly meetings. If that goes well, I have volunteered that the 30th, 33rd, and 47th will be involved in that. She told me last night that she is going to look at our school district and partner with us for us to be able to have, because we're as close as we are to Olympia, to begin to have voice and to speak. And Director Drake and I have both talked about starting to testify as we go through the legislative session for the 2017 year. I said, I'm scared, I've never done it. If you'll mentor me and you'll partner with me, I will do all that I can. So that will be part of, we'll need district support for that too, to make sure that we have a clear and concise message as we share with our legislators the impacts of their decisions around education for the year of 2017. Also the piece as we talk about that split and how do we do it, Director Eto talked about where it is. And so the last 8 years on the Ledge Committee, both the chair and vice chair have been males from the west side. I'm honored to say that actually our vice chair for next year is a individual female from Leavenworth. So now we have east and west representation, large and small school representation, and male and female representation to move forward to make sure that we're looking at all things and all decisions we make collectively from all perspectives as we try to work collectively with the 24 that serve this state. The SIP presentations, I sat through 33 of them. And what I can tell you, the biggest thing I saw is the red thread through all of them. As we begin to talk about not being misaligned and working collectively together as one solid system of 39 schools instead of 39 autonomous buildings, you can clearly see that as the thread throughout. So the impact of what we want from the strategic plan, I had no idea that we would see an impact this soon into it, of what's starting to happen at the building level. And I am very excited about what that means for our scholars going forward. One last announcement is the foundation. I think it was probably shared at the last board meeting, but we were recognized at the large school for our diversity work. So there's $1,000 that was awarded to us as a school district. At this point, what I'd like to do is send out a survey to board members to talk about how we give that $1,000 back to our scholars and or what we do with it, and get some ideas collected together and make a decision how we'd like to do that. The last thing before I close is I actually have a fellow board member out of one of the southern districts that shared at the annual conference a piece that really touched me, and I continue to go back to it and read it every week. And as we begin to think about safety in our students and the impacts, I just want to share this message she shared with us at the annual conference. I have a dream for 2017. I say to you today, my friends, so that even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, and that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day our country, a country sweltering with the heat of injustice, pierced with oppression and blanketed by vile acts of hatred, will be transformed into a refuge of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 3 daughters will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, the shape of their body, or choices of clothes, the accent of their voice, the sanctuary of where they worship, the orientation of their gender, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day in every town across our nation, those towns speckled with ignorant racists, those with hate-filled words dripping from their lips, whose writing consists of odious words cowardly sprayed painted under the cloak of darkness, whose actions are guided by blind obedience to demagoguery. One day, right there, in those towns, little black boys, Latina girls, white children, gay youth, Muslim women, and disabled men will join hands as one families of sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. Every neighborhood shall be made safe from intolerance, every battered woman's shelter obsolete, every quiet voice allowed to speak, every victim's defense group unnecessary. I have a dream that one day every cruel action will be obliterated, every cruel word dismantled, that the intimidation by mobs of faint-hearted sheep will be snuffed out by the rejection of their immoral beliefs and perverted inspirations. I have a dream today. This is my hope. This is the faith that I will go back home with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out the mountain of despair by a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will one day be free. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my father died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must come true. I have a dream today." So let freedom ring from the Padres Hills tops of New Hampshire. Let harmony flow from the Appalachians of Tennessee. Let brotherhood roll from the Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let unity spill from the Rockies of Colorado. Let compassion erupt from the Cascades of Washington. But more than that, we must deny intolerance, stop out bigotry, obliterate xenophobia, crowd out all fear and hate with compassion and empathy. I have a dream today. For when this happens, and we dismantle every overt and covert, detestable occurrence of racism, every cowardly act of hate, every fear-fueled attempt by intimidation, then we will be able to say, "My native country, thee, land of noble free, thy name I love." Then we will be able to let pride and glory in our country ring from every mountaintop, from every neighborhood. Then we will arrive at that day when all citizens, all men who are created equal in every gender, every black man, white man, Native American, Asian, Latino, Jew, Gentile, Muslim, atheist, will join hands together and sing. Until that day, I shall not rest. Thank you. All right, our next item on the agenda is the single voice document as a response back to sub-ins 1. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve that sub-end 1, each scholar, graduation and advancement is in compliance.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and our next item is from executive session. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve the purchase and sale agreements as executed for the Williams, Wong Tam, and Steel Lake Village.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And our last piece of business comes back from our retreat 6 weeks ago. We have now completely overhauled all of our policy governance, and this is the last portion of GPs that we've gone through. And at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I move
that
that-
the Board of Education approve the revised governance process policies as submitted.
I have a motion. Do you hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
So just one other piece before I adjourn. There is a calendar change that we made. So it was discussed in the President Superintendent Leadership meeting last week that the December 13th work study be canceled. So that has been canceled, and things will just roll forward in January and February. There was an opening in February. So that's how we will move forward with that.
Also wanted just FYI, Patty Young was, or Patty Woods was
Patty Wood.
nominated as the, or won the election for school board,
Board
for
of
State Board of
State Board of
Education. So
Education.
she will be sitting there and moving from her seat in WASDA and also her current Kennewick seat. So exciting to have someone on
So
the
Patty
state
Wood
board.
is the individual that wrote that I
That
have a
wrote
dream
that,
that I just
yeah.
read. So she will now be on the State Board of Education and was elected to that position this week. So that's great news. I didn't know that.
It's
So
a
that's
good,
great to
it's
hear.
great.
And at this point, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.